We need to remain cautiously optimistic about the future recruiting operations as we continue to recruit in a market that has low youth propensity to serve, limited familiarity with military opportunities, a competitive labor market, and a declining eligibility among young adults. More specifically, we've observed over the last decade a growing divide between military and civilians. Data indicate that many of today's youth are not interested in military service and have many misperceptions about what life is like as a service member. Additionally, for the first time since this metric has been tracked, the majority of youth have never even considered military service as an option. That is, it's not even on the radar. This divide has been brought about by a confluence of many factors, including the shrinking military footprint and declining veteran presence across society. Young Americans now have fewer direct ties to a family member or a close friend who has served in the military. For example, in 1990, 40% of our young adults had a parent who served. That's down to 15% today.
Where's the misconception and the racism where the military does not reflect diversity? The officer program, a third of them are white, and about approximately 9% are black, 8% Latino. The misogyny are the colorism, the medical malpractice. Example would be at Puget Sound in Washington State, where my daughter was misdiagnosed. She had cancer and was in agony for weeks due to me being harassed sexually by an officer, and what he said went, because I denied his advances and he was completely infatuated with me, and I had to keep a daily log and diary, and nobody said nothing or questioned this, nothing but a lieutenant, whoever's son he was. But I'm mono black, and it was all white people, where I could literally have a case manager. This person was my case manager, and he literally was doing things and nobody cared, and how I had to advocate for my daughter and get her to Madigan and then to Children's, because they were butchering kids at Madigan because they didn't know what they were doing. What else? Let's talk about the pay and the disparities, and how families have to be, 22K families have to be on welfare as of 2019. And also how President-elect Trump cut off benefits to actual veterans for Project 2025 who are disabled. Also 35K homeless veterans. Also the idea of coming home in a box if you talk about being essayed in the military and not liking it, and you're overseas, or better yet in Killeen. And how women are unaliving ourselves because we're dealing still with the trauma of military sexual trauma, and how the entire medical system, men and women, because a woman did it to me and it was just fine and dandy. It was another day in the office and it was actually a joke. How I have 3 to 3rd degree burns, and a person who made E8 thought they were 1st degree burns. The knowledge, where is it? The military should not be over the medical system they utilize, because I worked in personnel. No way, no how should I know people's mental health and STI status. And that just got around. Why? Because there was no confidentiality, and how toxic the leadership is. Leadership is extremely toxic, and nobody talks about it. How people are literally checking out and resetting themselves over the extreme detriment of the toxic leadership that's in the military, due to all these levels of just jealousy, colorism, all kinds of things. You could just be an exceptional autistic girl, who knew? And you get credit for nothing. So what exactly is the misconception is what I want to know. Because how homosexual people are treated. How I was in the military during Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And then we're going right back to that. How President-elect Trump is throwing out trans people out of the military, actually. Where is the misconception? Because also segregation. is a thing in the military. Actual segregation, because your officers, a third of them are white. And you have different living quarters for them and better because they're officers. And also you have chiefs, all that. But most of these people are not black. They're not reflecting minority and Latino people who they actually are over. So tell me where's the lie? Why do you think young people have a misconception? Because there is not one. And the agitation in my voice is because it's just unfortunate how you can have a literal meeting with officers and you're not talking to, but when people do PT, they have the slowest person leading because it's by that person's pace. So you should be asking and focusing on the person who was the most literally discriminated against. What's going on? A mono black woman, the way they see us and treat us. A racially ambiguous woman can have locks, but absolutely not. I can't, even though it's actually my heritage. A woman can have a hijab, but I cannot have locks. I need to understand where the misconception is, because I definitely tell people, hey, if they're a person of color, absolutely not. Do not go to the military unless you're a medical doctor or a pilot. You're not one of those. You can do something better out here. There are adult entertainers making better money than people risking their actual lives. Cops make more than people who have to be deployed. So tell me, I don't care if that person's an E1. They shouldn't even be making under $2,000 because the cost of living is very high.